So I think it has been extraordinary. But the two things that really stuck out to me was the announcement to drop sanctions on Syria. I was, in fact, very happy to see that. The Syrian people have suffered. That was the first meeting between an American president and a Syrian leader in 25 years. And the fact that that was made in Saudi Arabia and saluting Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, it places Saudi Arabia on the global map for being one of the most extraordinary negotiators, diplomats, and conduits of communication. And that's going to save Syria from the ambitions of Iran, of China. It's going to moderate that nation and open that nation to the international markets.
Rita.
The scenes we've seen in recent days, unprecedented. So much protocol seemed to be broken to really welcome Donald Trump to the region. Will he be able to maintain the momentum? Will he be able to follow through with what is really an enormous realignment of how the US has dealt with that region?
It's a great question, Rita. And I think the fact is that there are multiple partners that are going to move to make this happen. It's not only the governments of these Arab Gulf nations. Remember, Saudi Arabia is not only the richest nation in the Middle East, it's the richest nation in Asia. But it's their public that also welcome this investment. The public that welcomes Donald Trump. There are many places President Trump might not be warmly welcomed. You could think of Greenland, perhaps, or Panama, maybe. But in this part of the world, his values and his outlook, really, I think this 4 days has closed a gap that developed on 9/11. That was the intention. The Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman reminded us. The intention of bin Laden was to separate and break the US-Saudi relationship. And that relationship has been under tension and difficulty on and off for those decades. I think that has completely closed. And that's to the benefit of humanity. And much was made of the fact that Israel was not visited during this trip. But I think all of this alignment and deepening of alliances is ultimately going to benefit the state of Israel. And President Trump most likely had that very much in mind during his visits.
Caroline.
Qanta, you mentioned that, President Trump didn't visit Israel. There's been a lot of talk of an apparent rift between him and Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. And there has been criticism of his acceptance of this gift of a jumbo jet from the Qataris. He's seen to shake hands with dictators. People, obviously, the new interim Syrian president links to al-Qaeda. Do you see, though, that this new type of diplomacy paying off in terms of peace for the region, or do you have concerns that maybe he's putting his trust in the wrong people?
So, yes, I mean, al-Shara, the leader of Syria, he was aligned with and a member of al-Qaeda and ISIS. He has taken an extraordinary opportunity in history and has now a huge responsibility to the Syrian people, 80% of whom are below the poverty line. They have no access to international banking until these sanctions are fully lifted, which have been announced. So he has a tremendous responsibility. And I think he is beholden to Saudi Arabia and Turkey. And so President Trump has these tremendous guarantors. In that, President Trump has shown that he's been able to realign Turkey and Saudi Arabia that had tremendous tensions at each other. So I do have confidence that President Trump will do this. What's very interesting is that in a survey, in the Edelman survey of government trust I was reading, Saudi Arabia ranks as the highest level of trust of its public in its government at 85% out of about 38 nations, including my nation and I think yours. And that's because President Trump indicated the era of neocon politics, of nation building through destruction, that is in America's past, and the Middle East also has a different way of achieving things, and they are succeeding. I think that this could not only be successful for the US in the Middle East, it is going to realign the entire global South. And that region, which does include Israel, I think we're going to see Syria joining the Abraham Accords. I think we're going to see Lebanon. There's talk of Azerbaijan. Ultimately, Saudi Arabia will. There needs to be some form of Palestinian statehood before that happens. Ultimately, that is going to become an economic engine for the global South, which is where the population of the world is growing in the next decade. So we are going to come back and look at this as a historic visit.
But Qanta, you mentioned some form of Palestinian state. That's fairly ambiguous. And it goes to the heart of the matter as far as Israel is concerned, and security, and getting rid of Hamas, and of course the threat of Iran having a nuclear bomb. So all of that is tied in very much to that. Do you think that part of the rift that Caroline mentioned with Netanyahu is because Trump is now leaning on Israel to form some kind of Palestinian state within its borders?
I don't know, and I have no access to those conversations of any kind. I don't describe any kind of distance. I think President Trump has made it very clear his primary allegiance is to the American people. He regards Israel as America's closest ally. All of his efforts are designed to support Israel, as he's shown very emphatically. Tonight, I'm hearing that there's now a talk of releasing 9 hostages Hamas has offered in exchange for a pause in fighting, and that's being discussed. Remember, there are 23 hostages still trapped there alive and 35 bodies. So we've done 19 months of this war. I've been many times talking to you about it. I think the reality is we are coming to a point where no one has tolerance for more conflict. Not the Israelis, not the families of the hostages. The Israeli military is incredible. It will do whatever its people ask it for, but they have paid an extremely high price. And the Palestinians that are not Hamas operatives. The Hamas itself is still there, but has lost its primary sponsor, Iran. Its other sponsor in Qatar will be now under tremendous pressure from GCC nations, from the UAE and Saudi Arabia and the United States, to not be cultivating this barbaric monster. I don't know where the Palestinian state will be. I don't know what that territory is going to be, but I do know there has to be a 2-nation for 2 people solution. And that future state has to recognize Israel unambiguously. And I also believe in the Arab world, there is an appetite for a demilitarized Palestinian sovereign state in the future. It will not be permitted to have this kind of armaments, or perhaps even any armaments. And that's something that needs to be solved. But the status quo, another 19 months of this war, I don't foresee that. And I think the United States will lose its appetite for that.
Rita, quickly.
Yes, I agree with that. Before you go, Qanta, I just want to play a little bit of a vision. This had a lot of people fascinated, this ceremony that Trump was welcomed with. Tell us what the meaning of that is, that hair-waving ceremony. Donald Trump loved it, but yeah, what does it mean?
Do you know, I have never seen that anywhere in the Middle East. I wasn't aware of it, and I'm sorry to say I didn't even read about it. But I imagine it is the way they're facing somebody they're thrilled with. It's also celebrating the beauty of the women, the confidence of the women, and it underlines to me absolutely how pluralist the United Arab Emirates is. Remember, that's where they have the Abraham House.
Qanta, apparently it's for one of the highest honours you can pay. It's a gesture of grace, pride and spiritual blessing, which symbolises honour and purity of intent. So it's a big thing, and it's normally only reserved for kings and monarchs. So there you go. There you go. Qanta Ahmed, great to chat to you as always. We've got to go, but thanks so much.